Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. A day late for this video here. Saturday was very busy for yours truly, as those of you who watch every night on Twitch know. For those of you who don't, twitch.tv/Dookie24. And oh yeah, I'm getting married in less than 5 weeks, so that's weird. That's why yesterday was busy. Still a lot to do before the big day. But I wanted to make sure that I got a video out talking about this whole deal here that obviously by the time you're watching this, most of you who are interested enough would have seen this anyway. And as I mentioned, I was trying to think of how to phrase this, but as I mentioned a lot, this was not going to be that huge year for franchise mode. As if a blog post instead of a YouTube video wasn't enough to indicate that. And yes, maybe you could have still done a video about it featuring someone like myself, Tactics, Snipe and Score, whoever. They chose not to. Is what it is. I want to say about this, while it's not, before we even get into like the individual points, while it's not the biggest year for franchise mode, I do think there are some good changes. And in general, for NHL 24, I think that's going to kind of be the theme. It is not going to feel like this. It's not going to feel like NHL 2K came back and all of a sudden it's an entirely different hockey game. There is only so much they can do on a year-on-year basis in regards to every aspect of the mode because of the nature of yearly release cycles. It just is what it is. And obviously this year, the big focus was gameplay and World of Chell. So franchise mode, be it pro, whatever, we're obviously going to see less changes across the board. So in getting into this, there wasn't too much with this. You do have, with NHL 24, bringing back the full replays for offline modes, which is great. The fact that those weren't there in the first place is hilarious. Obviously, in a lot of ways now, we've seen it with Madden, we've seen it with FIFA. Presentation in sports games, it's not just NHL, but presentation with sports games, it has become about getting people into the action as fast as possible. It is just what modern gaming essentially is the idea of we want, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but whether or not it's sports games, FPS is whatever, it's less about the building up of immersion and more so getting people to the gameplay as quickly and as fast as possible is the best way to put it. NHL has been the same way. There are people, myself included, I'm not the only one, who are pushing for offline to be what it should be. The most immersive experience you can possibly have. Everything in depth like you'd want it. And then, of course, online can be fast, get to the gameplay, whatever. Obviously, though, the idea of something like that is down the rung of importance, down the ladder of importance on a lower rung compared to the big changes for Ultimate Team, the big changes for other modes, so on and so forth. That's just where we are at this point. But we do get to these franchise mode changes. First and foremost, the biggest one is the ability now for players to evolve or devolve in terms of X Factors, which is what a lot of people were kind of wondering if we'd eventually get, and indeed we are getting it this year. The idea, as they give here with the examples, that Gavin McKenna can start off with 2 silvers, and then all of a sudden he has 4 silvers, and then, oh hell, he developed gold elite edges. This helps a lot. Time will tell how well this works out, and if we're gonna see it kind of work in a wonky way and maybe players are developing. It does mention, of course, players may be developing abilities that are more in line with their play styles, but the reasoning behind players developing is what I hope to see work properly and not a little bit wonky. Like, I would love for someone to lead the NHL in shots, and if they didn't or shot blocks, I should say, and if they didn't have a silver, oh, cool, all of a sudden they get silver ice pack. If they do it again, they get a gold. I hope it works more like that instead of, oh, Connor Bedard suddenly learned how to block shots like a madman. Like, something like that would be, because that would also be a waste of Connor Bedard. He should have, the whole tool set offensively. It's a really nice change, though. It is. The idea of player development, I've preached about it a ton. I want it to be in more of a Madden style anyway, where you get a little bit more control, a little bit more hands-on on how players develop, what they develop into. I feel like this could be a decent step towards that. Again, time will tell, and it makes it a little bit more exciting post-draft, too. The idea of like, oh yeah, no, if there's a player that you really like, in theory, they could develop into a superstar level player. Could make something like Draft to Glories a little bit more interesting this year. So I do think that's a very good change. It's the biggest one that they highlighted, obviously. Elephant in the room. The fact that they put this as a bullet point, I just want to say this in here. We can zoom in a little bit. The fact that they put this as a bullet point, it's like they were asking to get dunked on, is the only thing I can say. You didn't need to put that. Why did you put that there? What the hell's the matter with you? Stupid. Get dunked on like you deserve to for that. This one right here. Coaches utilize the secondary positions of players more when constructing lineups. Something I directly have asked for the past few years. I am a little bit concerned that it is still not tuned or tweaked enough, in that I really hope we don't see examples like we've seen in previous years. Like there'll be players on the same line. A dude will be a left wing. His center will be a left wing center, but the left wing only will be playing center. It creates a butterfly effect of how teams perform, how players develop, so on and so forth. And I really hope that it's tweaked enough that we still don't really see examples of that, because it's incredibly stupid. It's incredibly stupid to have this position-based system and to not have the coaches care about it. So this is a positive change. I just hope they've pushed the system kind of enough to really kind of almost force coaches to do this. Because if you think about it, it's like, oh, okay, well, if we're going to play this left wing as this option, then we're going to look for other people in the draft and free agency and trading, so on and so forth. Not that in real life, players who are left wings can't get moved to center, but that brings us to the conversation of having a system where they could properly develop secondary positions, and we don't have that yet. Fingers crossed for the future. Coaches also set up even strength and power play lines better based on the coaching style, time of season, and the standings rank. So again, in theory, should be a positive setup here, right? Like your best players should be on the power play. Your most offensive players should be on the power play, especially come playoff time, especially if you're pushing for a playoff spot. It's stuff like that where, again, make the coaches and the GMs smarter. It'll be a better experience. There is also now +4 line chemistry. So, of course, you have the +1, +3, +5 in the prior seasons. Now there's a +4 as well to try and give them a little bit more maneuverability when it comes to their lines and how they set things up, so that the AI doesn't go, oh, but that line's a +5. Yeah, but that puts Austin Matthews on the 4th line. Yes, but did you see the +5? We should hopefully be avoiding situations like that now. Coach is also slotting players in the right power play roles better, which, again, good stuff. Should help, star level players actually do what they should do instead of, basically this is saying that a theoretical situation was Washington setting up Ovi as their playmaker on the power play instead of being the guy to shoot the puck. Nice to avoid that, obviously. Shot frequency is now set to high by default. This will increase scoring across the league, but keep goalies' save percentages respectable. Good stuff there. For anyone who watched the franchise mode stuff that we did last year, there was a lot of tinkering and tweaking to try and get franchise mode to replicate what was happening in the NHL at the time from this past season. Very, very difficult to do consistently, but I do think that's a good change. Fixed an issue where an unsigned prospect that gets traded to a computer team sometimes didn't get traded. God. Qualifying offer amount is now shown when offering a contract to an RFA, which, again, good stuff. More information, the better. Computer teams will now utilize buyouts. I want to give it just a clear-cut thumbs up, but I'm scared that the AI could do dumb things. I need to see this in utilization. I need to see this and how it plays out, because I do worry. And I'm justified in this concern based on wonky franchise stuff that we've seen before. I do worry that the AI could be like, well, I don't have cap space to sign this $2 million player that I want. I'm going to buy out Austin Matthews so I can sign them. Again, I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm not saying I've seen that happen, but I'm worried that it could. So fingers crossed there. This is another one that I begged and pleaded for a very, very long time. Teams without a goalie will prioritize trying to sign a goalie at the start of free agency. We are working closer towards GMs being a little bit more smart and knowing, oh, well, yeah, this really good defenseman's out there. I don't have any goalies, but yeah, we'll sign the defenseman instead. This should hopefully really get us that much closer to not having teams with 3 goalies on their roster each year, especially when 2 of those goalies are 70 overall or lower. So another positive change. Tuning for stat-based trade values mods, which trade value mods, which will also impact wild salary cap expectations. Good friend of the channel, Tactics, showcased a lot of these on his Twitter account over the past year, where you'd have a 79 overall player have a 50-point season at 35 years old, and then he's looking for $9 million in the offseason. That should not be happening anymore. He'll ask for a little bit more than the typical 79 should get, but it won't be $9 million, essentially. This will also help adjust scenarios where backup level goalies don't get contracts and team walk into the season with worse goalies than what's available. Very positive stuff there. We'll get into the other stuff in a moment, but again, while there's no GM connected this year or anything like that, there, as I've said, are a lot of quality of life changes here that I think are necessary. The ability to develop X factors. AI coaches being significantly smarter, in theory, but significantly smarter in how they build and manage their teams. Again, the computers with the buyouts, free agency expectations. Like, a lot of this isn't the sexiest stuff to put on the back of the box to be like, buy this game, this is amazing now. But it is going to make the core experience of franchise mode significantly better. As well, this is huge for somebody like Snipe and Score or somebody else who does, kind of crazy rosters where they add every single prospect. I tried to do that on occasion. Depends on the time that I have. But you can now have an extra 30 created teams, another 1,500 extra skaters, and an extra 200 created goalies compared to the cap from NHL 23. Someone like Snipe and Score, his rosters are going to be that much more authentic with that much more in-depth detail with players that he could add that he couldn't afford to add previously, which is great. There was also this little part here about patch 1.01. I mean, it says live now too. Obviously the game isn't out yet, but you have the whole deal there in regards to the X Factor development, which is phenomenal. Lefty and righty now being shown when selecting a player to add to the trade. Again, this, as long as we keep moving towards that idea of the AI being smart enough to know lefty, righty, this will only help in the future. If you get punished a little bit more for playing a right side defenseman on the left, this will help that much more. Progress report screen shows X factors on the correct player. Again, how the hell was that wrong? Who the hell knows? The default penalty slider apparently was too low for offline modes. That's good too. Fix for generated players being given the new generic helmet and bubble cages. Fine with that too. A fix to allow the users to send players down to the minors when the team is over the maximum salary cap. It's such a small thing, but so many times you'd have to hit AI auto fix roster and just hope it didn't screw it up too much. So that's really nice. Also, changes to the way that they import minor, junior, and elite league players into the mode for custom leagues, which is also great. For those of you that watched my WHA throwback type of series that we had for NHL 23, this was a bitch. I recruited Snipe and Score to make an accurate roster for me to try and mitigate these issues. It was... it helps a lot for the custom league side of things. And then fix to improper home ice advantage scenarios when using the custom league settings. Again, more positive changes. And then post-launch, adding a contract response for when a player accepts a qualifying offer compared to a normal contract offer. Small thing, but it is worth knowing. Added a regulation wins tiebreaker to the standings options, and fixing the Conn Smythe winners stats, which again, how the hell was that an issue for so long? Still post-launch, so fun stuff there. As I've said a couple of times, it's not the biggest thing in the world in terms of these crazy changes, but they are a lot of quality of life improvements, small improvements that needed to be made, that have been made, that are going to make the franchise mode experience better compared to NHL 23, it's not going to revolutionize what we had for the NHL 23 side of things. And I think flat out gameplay needed to be evolved first and foremost. It really, really did. So I can't complain as a franchise mode guy that it's the kind of focus that they had for this year's game. I think franchise mode's time will come. I don't know when. I'm hoping in the next year or two we get that big changes of, the big set of changes of a GM connected, some sort of connected franchise back. Cross-platform roster sharing would be incredibly welcome. I could go down my wish list. It would take forever at this stage, so we won't do it today. But you guys, I'm sure, have heard me talk about things a lot. And outside of that, I imagine this will be the last type of video that we drop. I'm not going to do a soundtrack breakdown like some people did because music is so goddamn subjective. Just because I don't like it doesn't mean it sucks. If you like it, cool. We, of course, had the videos out all about the ratings. While those are subjective, holy hell, were there some ratings that... feel free to check out those videos to get my thoughts and opinions on those. But with that, it does mean NHL 24 is right around the corner. Getting ready for a new year and hopefully a good one. With that, I'll let you go for now. I'll see you all very, very soon. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.